What's up, fellow vegetable nerds? It is time, at long last, for part 2 of the squashening.
Hey, turn up the caramel and chisel on the shizney. It's time for me to what? Let me introduce myself. I'm Gina Burrito. My pants are made of leather. I find it hard to concentrate.
So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to use the Instant Pot today. And you can tell that this is my Instant Pot 2 ways. One, it's a little dirty on the outside. And 2, it's got a taco on it. And the taco has a butt. Because I'm an adult and I can. We're going to have to peel and seed and chop our butternut squash. This is the moment of truth. Is he still good on the inside? It's okay if he's dinged up on the outside, and he definitely is. But as long as he's all juicy and delicious and wonderful on the inside, that's all that matters. Off comes the butt. I don't make the rules. Oh, that looks great on the inside. Look at that. That looks like fresh and beautiful, and you would never know that he was just sitting there languishing on my counter, all sad watching me eat other foods first. You're beautiful. Thank you. You're a fucking star. And off comes the top. Similarly beautiful. See, now you have something solid and it's not going to go anywhere. And that's going to be a lot easier to peel, maybe. I don't know. I don't peel squash a lot. No. I'm trying to take too much of the skin off because I want to save as much of the inside as possible because it's not that big a squash. I am going to be saving these peels, and the peels are going to be really useful in stock later, but the flesh is not so good. It's too starchy and it's going to mess up your stock, so you really don't want the flesh. So I want as much as possible to get just the peel. I did it. Now that you have all of these scraps, they go in the scrap bag. What is the scrap bag? This is a bag that I keep in my freezer, and every time I'm cutting vegetables and stuff, all of my little butts and peels and little parts of things, instead of getting wasted, those are going in the scrap bag and into the freezer. And when this bag gets full, I'm gonna make some vegetable stock. Or maybe I'll throw some chicken bones in there and make some chicken stock. We'll see what happens. And I looked it up, and apparently the rind, the outside peel of a lot of these winter squashes are totally fine. You don't want to use too much of it, just a little bit, but you don't want that inner flesh. It's just too starchy. Back in the freezer it goes. Okay, so the next step, we're just gonna cut this down the middle. It doesn't look great. It looks a little old. Ideally, you don't want to leave them sitting on your counter for a year. You can, but you're gonna get less. It's starting to dry out on the inside, but I don't see any mold or anything, so I'm gonna go ahead and eat this. There's not that much squash that I'm gonna be salvaging, so I'm really glad that I went with a recipe that needs less squash. Grab a spoon, and I'm gonna try and get all of these insides out. I'm gonna try and preserve as much as possible, but get everything out that we don't want in. Ordinarily, I would save these seeds and I would roast them. I just have a feeling I don't want to do that with these. I think they might have just been there a little too long. They're probably fine, to be honest. They probably are okay. They look okay, but I can't be bothered. So just this once. I know I don't like wasting, but just this once we're gonna just kind of toss these. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna be honest, I'm slightly nervous because what we're left with when we take out all the middle is not actually that much squash. But that's okay, because I don't need to make that much soup. It's just me. I don't want to eat squash soup every day for the rest of my life, and Brian's not going to help me. I don't know if you watched last week's episode of Cheating on Meat. He's not a squash fan. I'm going to maybe see if I can get him to take a bite of this when it's done, but we'll see how that goes. So now that you have it peeled and you have it seeded, now you chop it up in little chunks. And once that peels off, this chops up really nicely. It's actually not difficult at all. The only thing that makes it hard to cut is that outer peel because it's really hard. So when you've got it all cut up, this is how much you end up with, and then it goes straight into your Instant Pot. I really love this Instant Pot. I had read so much about it, and there's people online, when I say that the fandom around the Instant Pot is like second only to those like Korean boy bands. I mean, Instant Pot is practically a religion at this point. I'm not quite to that level of adoration, But I do really dig this thing. Although I will say, and let me just warn you, this happens. If this is you, okay, it's normal. It's totally normal and it's totally fine, and don't feel bad about it, okay? When I got this, I let it sit in the box for like a year and a half. And I don't fully understand why. I think I was just sort of overwhelmed by it. And it was new to me, and I was a little nervous about using it for the first time, and I thought it was gonna be so complicated, and I just didn't, you know? And it just kept staring at me from the box, and I know, I will, I promise. And I just started feeling really bad about it. And then one day I was just like, make something, Kelly. And then I did, and I was like, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. Why did I make such a big deal about this? But that's human nature, that's what we do. But what matters is that now I'm used to it. If you have one and you're doing the same thing, apparently it's very, very common. Don't feel bad about it, but I really suggest going online and looking up some tutorials on using it for the first time, because it can be a little daunting. We've all grown up seeing like cartoons of pressure cookers exploding. Your Instant Pot is not gonna explode. It is not complicated. It is super, super easy. And it's great, again, if you're cooking with kids, you know, because it doesn't, this whole outside doesn't get hot. Top's gonna get a little hot. Don't put your hand on the top, but even if you do, it's got like a safety handle, and it's fun, like a science experiment. There's a really fun part at the end, and if you've got kids cooking with you, they're gonna really love, I promise you they're gonna fight over who gets to do that part, okay? So, let's keep putting stuff in there. One apple. Really? It's like if Vin Diesel was an apple or something. Like, that thing resisted. So out come the cores. Now we're just gonna chop these up into the pot. 1 carrot. I'm gonna save these parts. I forgot, I should have left my bag out, but these are gonna go into my little butt bag, my scrap bag. Carrots are great in stock. That's a really good one. Onion peels, things like that, perfect. Oh, snap. Yeah, I should have left that bag out. Carrot. In the pot. Easy, easy. 2 cloves of garlic. Only 2 cloves of garlic? You know, the cloves aren't technically that big, so I'm just gonna go for 3. I mean, yes, I was gonna do that anyway. And all of the paper and all of the peelings and everything from that garlic, I'm just gonna collect that in here, and this is gonna go into my scrap bag. Once those are peeled, I'm just gonna chop them really roughly. Everything in this Instant Pot, it's gonna get whizzed up at the end. It doesn't matter how you chop it. You know, you just want to make it a little bit easier to break it down fully. Nice big chunks, doesn't matter. Now the recipe calls for a white onion. I don't actually have a white onion, which is surprising because I love white onions. Nice yellow onion, you know. You're not always going to have exactly what the recipe calls for. It's okay. There are some differences between a white onion and a yellow onion. The white onion is going to be a little sharper and the yellow onion is going to be a little sweeter, but it's all right. It's still going to work. They're still onions. This happens so much in cooking. There's the absolute best, and then there's what you got. If you want to see something super cute, I have these guys. These are called cipollini onions, and they're Italian, and they're little bitty guys. Isn't that cute? I'm not going to waste it on this because this is all going to be like mushed down in the end, and I want to do something fun with these. All of this into the scraps. It says to dice this, but again, I just don't really think it's all that necessary. I'm just gonna like roughly chop it. I don't have vegetable stock at the moment. What I do have is some homemade chicken stock, and that can only make that taste nicer. I think this was meant to be a vegetarian dish, so that might be like the one reason that it would matter, but I'm not vegetarian, so it's okay. So this we want 2 cups. Just gonna kind of, you don't mess around with stock. You don't leave it sitting out. That's got to stay refrigerated or frozen at all times. Those, I always have a bunch in my freezer, and then when I know I'm going to need to use it, I will thaw it, you know, no more than a couple of days in advance, because you don't want to mess around with stock. An eighth of a teaspoon of cayenne, please. It says, or more to taste. Yeah, you're damn right. Big blimp. Maybe a little bit more. No. It's mine. I'm the one eating it. So it just kind of looks like raw stew at the moment. You can kind of, this comes out, that's kind of neat. So you can sort of see what's going on in there. It looks like that. Now, the next step is you want to toss in a couple of chai tea bags. I've actually chosen to use, I've got a house masala chai. This is a traditional Assam masala. And this is from a little tea shop I went to in Montana when I visited my mom. I really like going to that place. It's called This House of Books. So because this is loose, oh, that smells so good. I have one of these. I have these little paper tea bags. Filled out myself. 2 teaspoonfuls, which is probably what you would get in 2 tea bags. So that right there. And now it's just gonna get tucked in. And you wanna make sure it's submerged. Now we plug in, it turns on, and you're gonna put the lid on and seal it. And the nice thing is, it kind of sings to you. The nice thing is, you know when it's open or it's closed. Ta-da! It's fully closed. So there's no chance that you're gonna not have it sealed properly and then it's gonna explode. Like, it's not gonna explode, okay? If I haven't exploded it yet, it's probably not explodable. It says that you wanna pressure cook this for 30 minutes. What? Okay, this recipe, one of the reasons I didn't end up using it was because it was gonna make twice as much. It needed twice as much of everything. And I knew I didn't have enough of the squash to make that. With twice the volume, with twice the solids, with twice the everything in the pot, this one says to put it on for 8 minutes. That's a little bit of a difference. Not only does it say that, it says 8 minutes and then you let it naturally release for 10. So that's a total of 18 minutes. This guy says 30 minutes on high pressure and then 15 minutes to release. That's 45 minutes of cooking this little bit of food. I've cooked meat for less time than that. 30 minutes is insanity. So I'm like torn. What am I gonna do? Looking at this thing here, which is something I have on the side of my fridge, and it's just kind of like a little cheat sheet, you know, because once you've gotten used to making recipes with the Instantpot, you're gonna eventually just want to start winging it, you know, and like making your own stuff. But then comes, you know, oh no, how long do I put that in there? You know, the recipe used to tell me that. Now I got to figure it out for myself. So little cheat sheets, you know, and this one is for vegetables. I've got one for grains. I've got one for meat. It doesn't have squash on here, but it has pumpkin, which is similar and the same family. And I would say, you know, winter squash and pumpkin should be roughly the same. And they're saying that if it's fresh and not frozen, if it's in small pieces, 4 to 5 minutes. And if it's in large pieces, 8 to 10 minutes. 30 minutes? So this is one of those times when you have to decide for yourself, am I going to bow to authority and say, you know, well, I don't think it's right, but I guess we'll just do that. Or you make an executive decision, which is what we're gonna do right now. Executive decision, this is going for 8 minutes. So we hit manual, and then 8 minutes, it's automatically on high pressure. Let's make sure, slide that out here. There's a little valve back here, and you want to make sure that that's pressed back so it's not unventing. Otherwise, while this is trying to come up to pressure, it never will, because it's not going to seal because all the air is coming out. And they're just going to sit here forever going, when will I have soup? And the answer is never. At this point, you can walk away. It's kind of like a crock pot in that way, where you just kind of set it and forget it. So you can grab your beverage, relax for a minute. You can do some light reading. So when we say we're going to cook it for 10 minutes, what we mean is it's going to come up to pressure, and how long it takes to come up to pressure depends on how much is in there. If this was really full, it would probably happen a little bit faster. It's going to take, you know, a few minutes, and then it's going to pressure cook for our 8 minutes. At that point, it's going to beep, so if you're off doing something else, which why wouldn't you be, you can come and take a look at it, and then it's going to start counting down and let you know how long it's been sitting in there. For some recipes, you're going to want to do a quick release, and for some, you're going to let it sort of release on its own naturally. It's just going to depend on what's in there. Do you remember how I said that I was really bad at growing stuff? Would you like to see proof of that? Hey, look at these. Those are some nice big blueberries. No, they're not. They're ridiculous potatoes. That's a potato that I grew. So I just want to give you a status update for people who are not so familiar with the Instantpot, and this is maybe your first time watching something be cooked in one. So what happened was, as it started to come up to temperature, it started building up some steam, and it started coming out right here. There's a little silver button right here, and some steam started coming out. Now, if you're not used to using an Instantpot, you might be like, oh, something's going wrong. No, something's going very, very right. So what happens is, as that steam starts to come out, this little silver thing, let's see if I can scoot this so you can see what I'm talking about. So this little silver thing gets pushed up and then it kind of plugs it up. Because up until then, steam was able to sort of escape, but it pushes that up and plugs it, and now you're sealed. So now it's totally silent. And when that happens, that's when it goes from just saying on to having a number here. So it started with the number 8, which is what we set it for, so for 8 minutes. Now it's on 6. So in 6 minutes, it's gonna go bip, 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 and then it's gonna start counting up. That's how long it's been sitting in there after it has done its pressure cooking. At that point, it's gonna be slowly releasing pressure. If you do nothing, if you just fall asleep, what's gonna happen, it's not gonna keep building pressure. Like, I promise you're fine. What's gonna happen is it's gonna slowly release the pressure on its own. Now, for some things like, I think I've heard that meat is something where you wanna let it slowly release the pressure, because if you do it real fast, you might just like kind of make it sort of grody. So now we're down to 5. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we're at 1 minute, so it's gonna do the thing in a second. It did the thing! So what it says is L and a bunch of zeros. So that's just a clock. Thank you. So if you do fall asleep, it's gonna wake you up and let you know. Okay? Or if you're in the other room doing something else, it's gonna be like, hey, it's time for you to make a decision. Like, you wanna do this fast, you wanna do this slow. Natural pressure release for 10 minutes. So we're gonna let that sit until this says 10, at which point we get to do probably the most fun part. Okay, 10. Okay, this right here is your release valve. Now, when I say your kids are gonna wanna do this, please let me make very clear to you that there is a slight element of danger, not what it looks like, but there's gonna be steam coming up. Don't get your hands in there. Just make sure that they very carefully do it, preferably with, you know, give them a wooden spoon or like, you know, a fork or something. Have them stand back. Don't put your hands right in there, because that's still steam. We're gonna go from, and don't put your face over it. Like, these are the things that seem, you know, obvious, but if you've never used it before, it's good just to be aware, okay? So now we're gonna put this from sealed to venting, and watch this. Yeah! And honestly, it's not that hot, but still stay away from it. And it's really scary the first time, especially when you go from straight from pressure cooking and it hasn't had any time to naturally release. And that's what the quick release is. You're just like, let it all out right now. You know, this has had 10 minutes to let some of the pressure out. So when you go straight into a quick release, it's just like, psh. We wait until this is done, and we know it's done, not just because it stops making the noise and it stops putting out steam, but that little silver guy, it just did it, just popped right back down. Then and only then is it safe to open the Instantpot, okay? Don't open it until that moment. By the way, this smells really nice. Now, it tells you when it's open. And that's gonna have some hot water coming off of it, okay? If you've got kids in the kitchen helping you, this is the part that you do, because you might drip some hot water on yourself. And this looks like just about exactly the amount of liquid that I would want. Very, very, very carefully, because this is gonna be hot. Ah, told you. I'm gonna take that chai bag out and just kind of press it against the wall, because we're gonna try and squeeze out any liquid that's in there. And if you can do that with a utensil, all the better, because you want to be touching this as little as possible. Now, if you're smarter than me, and probably you're using some kind of like, I don't know, a hot pad or something like that, but like, I'm gonna do this. So into our garbage it goes. Now this is another kind of fun part. So in case you're wondering what this is doing, it's still on, okay? We're no longer pressure cooking. This number is still gonna keep going up. It goes automatically to keep warm. Next, we get an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, first of all, these things are rad. I have had this for about, I don't know, like 25 years. I've had this for a long time. I was practically born with it in my hand. and I feel terrible for my mom, and I should call her and say I'm sorry. But these things last forever, they're super durable, and they're super, super easy. I could tip this whole thing into like a food processor, but I could also splash on myself and hurt myself real bad. I've been known to do it, but check out how easy this thing is. A note on these, if you're not used to using them, and I realize that's not gonna be that many of you, but for whoever needs to hear this, I'm here for you, okay? You want this fully immersed at all times, okay, before you turn it on. And then while it's going, if you need to lift it out for any reason, turn it off first, because as soon as this comes above the water line, you're gonna splash yourself and you're not gonna be happy, okay? So, in all the way first. Coconut milk is going into this. It says to blend it and then put your coconut in, but like, what difference does it make? What step you put this in? I'm gonna put it in now, raise the level of liquid a little bit, and maybe that'll make it less splashy. Not too much. All right. Standing well back. So first, pinches of salt. This is going to be very hot. So. It's nice, but I want something more. Now, here's where you get to be a little creative. If you try something and you're like, it's all right, I don't love it, then you can mess around and see what you might like better. So I'm going to use a little bit of it, and I'm going to experiment on this little bit. That way, if I do something that's not good, I only did it to this. I don't know why I feel like I want apple cider vinegar in there. Just a little bit. That's shocking. Like, I feel like that, it gives a little sweet sort of a tang to it, but then it brings out the flavors of all the spices. Like the pepper really pops, and like I taste all the spices a lot more than I did a minute ago. I would add a little less. I'm only gonna put just like a little bit in there because I put a little too much in here and I didn't put very much at all. So, oh, that's it. That's way better. Oh my God, that's way better. That's so crazy that just that tiny little bit of apple cider vinegar and I'm talking a tiny bit, just a little bloop. It really brought all the flavors out because it was so dull a second ago. Just a weensy bit of coriander. Not very much at all, just a little bit. Sometimes you just gotta look through your spice collection and see what's calling to you. You know, see what's calling your name. Like a little sweet, a little smoky, a little spicy. I'm gonna try it in here first though. Yes. That's beautiful. That's really good. It's really, really good. I think we did it. I wasn't sure for a minute. I wasn't sure at the beginning, and I wasn't sure at the end, but now I'm very sure. That's pretty tasty soup. Just keep in mind, recipes are just suggestions. If you aren't happy with the way something is, or if you don't like an ingredient or something, do whatever you want. This is your food. Make it how you like it. Should I try and get Brian to eat it? I don't know if he'll go for it. Oh, it's spicy. I don't think I'll be able to do it. We'll see. It's got some lingering heat because I have the cayenne, and then I use that fire seasoning at the end. It's from a company called Spice Cave, and it is spices: smoked paprika, ancho chili, habanero pepper. Oh, I think he's done with the habanero for a while. Coconut palm sugar, Himalayan pink sea salt, and sunflower oil. This is pretty neat stuff. I've come to really enjoy it. It's really good at Brussels sprouts, actually. That is it. Thank you for hanging out with me and trying out another type of squash. We have one more to try next time. We're gonna make spaghetti squash. We're gonna do a whole different thing with it. So look forward to that. In the meantime, please like and subscribe if you get a moment to do that. I would really, really appreciate that. And maybe show this to a couple of friends or something. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you next time on Meat and Veg. Bye.
Hey, turn up the caramello and chisel on the shizney. It's time for me to what? Let me introduce myself. I'm Gino Burrito. My pants are made of leather. I find it hard to concentrate.